powered by nuclear energy.
Hi, this is DJ Mondo. Welcome back to the Atomic Luau. I thought I'd give you guys an update on my ongoing saga of the Gemini PMX 20 Performance 4-channel mixer and all of my MIDI mapping trials and tribulations that I'm going through with this mixer. But I'm making some breakthroughs. I'm having some heartaches and making some breakthroughs, but I am starting to see a whole lot of potential with this budget 4-channel mixer here. Low price, a lot of features, very useful if you know how to MIDI map it to the software that you're going to use it with. And I am making some breakthroughs here with different software. I've become obsessed with using it with Ableton Live 11 because this will be a great clip launcher and effects pass-through for a lot of the stuff here. I'm going to show you some of the mappings that I've made in Ableton Live and how I'm going to use this. Now, before I show you my successes with the Gemini, I think it's only fair that I show you some of my failures, describe some of my failures first, and why I had to change my tactic for some of the things that I want to accomplish with this mixer. One thing I did do was I mapped these buttons to for these channel selector buttons to different session tracks in Ableton. So for example, track 3 here will select this track between track 3 and track 1 corresponding to these tracks here. And I thought I could select these tracks using these two buttons, and that worked pretty well. And my original plan was to select the track with these buttons, with 3 and 1 here, and then use these row of buttons here in order to launch the clips in that selected track. 8 buttons, 8 clips, and you launch each one separately. But however, I found out that I couldn't map it that way. I couldn't, if you use these buttons and map them to these clips here, you'll end up launching the entire, not just the clip, but the entire session, which is the entire row across here. Like let's say you had, 8 columns here. If you hit one of these buttons trying to launch a single one of these clips, it doesn't differentiate between the tracks. So you're not just going to launch a single track, you're going to launch the entire row of clips. And that's not what I wanted to happen. And there was no way to set it so that it would launch that single clip. However, and I considered it a failure. I looked up a whole lot of ways. It's like, can you map it so that you can launch a single clip from the column? There is a way to do it, but I had to find a different way to select that column rather than using the track selector buttons here. And what I did find out was is that I could encode this track search encoder here, this rotary dial right here, and I could make it move up and down as a selector. You see that? And that way I could select the the entire session. But The real key here is when you are doing the MIDI mapping using this command here. See how everything turns blue? Now you can map it to a certain control. When you open those MIDI maps, each track here has its own play button. And when you map an item to that play button, it only launches that clips in that column, in that single column. So I can use the rotary dial as an encoder to select the up and down. And then I mapped that Q button to the track launch button of its respective track. And that way I can select the session that I want, and then use this Q button to launch the selected, to launch the respective track. So for example, if I want to launch this from track 3, that's fine. So that's, the second clip there. And then I can select further down and launch the track from here. So I can select any clip that I want using that method, using that rotary encoder. And that's pretty much, for the way I work, that's the way I want to launch them. So I'm having a good time with this now that I see the potential. And all I really have to do now to map tracks 2 and 4 is just copy these 2 tracks and then select the select the items that are in that track for MIDI mapping in that track. So yeah, it's definitely, and then and each one has a a separate volume slider. So but yeah, this is going pretty well. I like the way it's going. And then now another thing that I did was I used these load deck buttons here at the top. See, again, we 3 in 1. If I wanted to stop an individual clip, I'll use these buttons here. So we stop clip 3, track 3, and we stop track 1 there. Okay, and use those to stop. Now you'll notice that the overall session is still playing because the play button is up there. So guess what? That same rotary encoder that I used to select, it's also a button. So I mapped the button function to the stop feature here, and I can go ahead and stop the entire track with that rotary encoder. So it's definitely shaping up. This is going to be a really good Ableton Live 11 controller once I'm done and save this final template here. So I've been saving all kinds of versions of this template. I'll get rid of all of those once I get the final here, but it's working out great. And all I have to do is create a template. Then I can fill all of those cells with loops that I make in Native Instruments Machina. Just drag and drop them from here and turn them into loops to launch from here. Now, the other plan for this is that what I've done down here with each track is also put in these equalizers down here on each track, and I've mapped those to these encoders here, so I can change the output on here. Now, it doesn't give me a lot of granular control of the lows, mids, and highs that are within that particular effect, but I like the way this is turning out here. So I map that filter to these encoders here, but each column will have its own basically equalizers. I can control the lows, mids, and highs. But what I would really like to do is maybe create some other output channels that have some effects on them, like delay and things like that, before it goes to the master output. and actually the master output is connected to this right here. You'll see that encoder moving right there. So what I'd like to do is put some effects post output here, post master, and then I want to try to channel the output of each track into those effects, and then I can use these, and I wonder if I can use these as effect sends, so that I can have those effects on, and then whenever I want to apply them to a specific track, I just turn on this effect send button. But those are not mapped yet, so we'll see how that works. But I really like the way this is working out for Ableton 11, and I'm starting to see the potential here for this template. But for the way I work with the loops that I make in any other application, just create those loops, drag them and drop them in here. Make sure they're set to loop. Control the tempo. I couldn't find a decent button or knob to use as a tempo controller here, but again, I'll keep searching for that. But if you want to use if you have got the time to learn this and to learn MIDI mapping, and you want a nice, reasonably priced 4-channel mixer to work on, you cannot go wrong with the Gemini PMX 20. And I am really starting to see the potential of this here. But yeah, definitely this. But when I figured out this item about the encoder, that solved a whole lot of problems. You're never going to, those button selectors, those track selector buttons right there, the 3 and the 1, will not change the mapping of these buttons when you switch to the different tracks on them. Though I found that out the hard way. I searched a whole week to try to figure out how to do it that way, when the solution was staring me right in the face all this time to use this rotary encoder instead. But that's the story so far. But it's going to go a whole lot faster now that I figured these things out, and it's time to just really start making a template and start dragging and dropping loops into them of all different tempos and everything. But the next phase is, if I can route these to effects, then I can create my own sets and really start having a good time with this. But once this template is up and running, it's going to be a really, really good time. I'm going to have a really good time making loops to fit into this, and making sets out of those. So that's the story so far. Thanks for listening. Remember, thanks to Gemini, thanks to the PMX 20. This is going to be the Atomic Luau only gets more and more fun as we go along. Oh, another thing I almost forgot here. You see those red buttons right there, USB? You got to have those on in order for those tracks to become visible in Ableton Live 11. Those must be turned on. I found that out the hard way. So whenever you turn this thing on, and make sure that Ableton Live is seeing this unit, in order for it to see the audio unit in here, you have to have those USB lights, those USB buttons turned on, so that each of those tracks will be appeared in here. As you can see, the first track number 3 is going out through external out through. The audio is going to channels 5 and 6, and number 1 is going to 1 and 2. So remember to keep those on. And once this mapping is complete, once I map the other 2 channels, I'll probably do a little bit of video just to see how well it works. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to handle the effects sends yet, but I am so happy that I got this far. Anyway, thanks for listening, and keep watching the Atomic Luau. Let me know if you've had any success with anything like this as well. I'd like to know what other mappings you've made with other 4-channel mixers. But yeah, this is quite fun. This is not bad for a guy who didn't do any MIDI mapping like this before a month ago. Anyway, thanks. Bye.
Powered by nuclear energy.